Thank you all for coming in tonight. We're doing an intro to GitHub with Ann Henderson. And Ann is an experienced tech support lead working with Linux servers and web hosting. Ann is also a member of the Minnesota Women in Tech. And so tonight, Ann is going to be walking us through the very, very 101 level of GitHub. And what GitHub is really generically is an open source development tool that allows for collaborative coding with version control. All of those words will make more sense after you hear from Ann tonight. But I wanted to give you a little bit of context as to where things are with GitHub. They are projecting to have about 100 million users by 2025. So it's rapid growth for use in an open source tool. And it's also set to hit 3 million new first-time contributor projects by year in the next years here. So it's a popular tool that is gaining popularity, but it is still very, very intimidating for people. And so hopefully with this tonight's lesson and what Ann's going to walk through with us, we will feel a lot more confident going in and kind of getting our feet wet in GitHub. So I just wanted to thank everybody for being here. If you want to connect with us more and hear more, come to more meetups like this, you can visit us at codesavvy.org. And on most, if not all of the social channels, we are at codesavvy.org, all one word. So I'm going to hand things over to Ann and we will get going.
Okay. All right. Does everybody see the pool?
I do. It makes me want to go
Valerie,
swimming.
do you see the pool?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay. So, first of all, you're probably wondering why we're looking at a pool. It's going to be obvious to you in a minute. So, I just want to welcome all of you to the GitHub pool. So, I'm going to be your lifeguard today. And I'm going to make sure that you're not floundering in the waters of GitHub because, as Valerie was saying, some people are very intimidated by it. And if you start trying to use this tool before you really understand how it works and the concepts behind it, you're going to find it very confusing. So the first thing they're going to do is we're going to learn these concepts and we are not going to jump right in. So if you have watched any number of computer tutorials before, you've probably heard people say, let's jump right in. So we're not going to do that. We're going to do things kind of differently today. And so we might, maybe we'll put our toes in here in the shallow end, but really the way that I want to do it is I want to go in this way down these steps and backwards to learn about it. So, all right, I'm going to clear this drawing and we're going to go to the next slide. And right off the bat, oops, I'm going to go back to my, look at this. I'm going to go back to this. Okay. Nope. I'm trying to get back to my slides. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so now we're going to find out what some other people are saying about GitHub and why you might be interested in GitHub. So the first one is having a good understanding of Git is essential if you want to code and work on a collaborative software development project. And the next thing somebody said, don't worry about who said these because it's just the content of what they said that's important. This is as close as you can get to a time machine, but only for your files and folders. And the last thing, there's no way around it. You need to learn how to use GitHub. So there's a lot of people will tell you it is very important, and it is if you're going to go on in your coding life and work on projects with other people. So I'm going to show you now just a really basic definition of what is GitHub, because hearing these people talk about it, no doubt you're extremely curious now, what is GitHub? So GitHub is a tool for sharing code and tracking changes. And right away, I want to address this question, GitHub versus Git. You've already seen some references to Git. Maybe I already said the word Git, but GitHub versus Git, these two are not the same, but they are very related. And by the end of this tutorial, you're going to understand the difference. But for right now, just kind of put that aside and don't worry about it. If you hear either of those terms, they're really referring to the same thing. So, all right. Oh, never mind that. Just a dog. She comes later. Okay. So GitHub is a tool for sharing code and tracking. So I want to revisit the concept here of a tool. And so what is a tool? So does everybody see this tool? Anybody? Valerie, do you see this? Valerie?
I see the hammer. Sorry, I was on mute.
You see the hammer? Oh, sorry. Okay, because I can't see myself. So, okay, so we got a hammer here. And so that's a tool. I'm sure you've seen it before. So a tools are developed to solve problems. So somebody came up with the hammer so they could pound nails and build stuff. And they came up with a screwdriver so that people could screw things together and again, build things. And then there's this one, which, I don't know, don't worry about that one. So these tools were developed because of problems. So the point I'm trying to make here is that what is the problem that caused GitHub to be developed? Because there was a problem. If there's a tool, there was a problem that led to the tool. So I'm going to try to explain to you what is this problem, because it's going to lead into the process of you understanding the concepts and give you a better way of approaching GitHub in general. So the first thing we're going to do in order to dip our toes into the waters of GitHub is we are going to watch a little movie that I made. And this is a little movie about me writing a story about my dog, Clover. I think I accidentally showed you a picture of her earlier, so don't worry about that. But by me showing you this movie and explaining to you the analogy of it and the problems that I have while I'm writing this story, you'll better be able to understand Git. So let's watch this little movie. So it's the Clover story. All right, Clover is a dog. All right, okay, I'm changing it. I just want Clover story. She loves treats and she loves to do tricks. All right. Oh, I don't want to say my dog. I just want to be clear. And it's a Clover story. Her best trick, oh, I made a typo. I fixed it, is called the paw cross. I want to say it's her fave trick. I like that word better. Okay. All right. I think I'm done here. Okay. I like it. I'm going to send it off to my publisher, but okay. Wait a minute. I'm not really sure that I like it anymore. I want to go back. I think I want to go back to an earlier version in the story. So maybe I want to go back to something I wrote earlier, but I can't because I didn't save it. So let's just say that I could. What if I could go back here? I like this part. I want to write it from here because I can't remember what I did. I made a million changes. I don't remember anything. So this is an example of the problem that Git solves. If I was writing code instead of a story, I would be able to go back and see where I had made saves along the way. So that is why Git was developed. It's kind of like a time machine, like in one of those early quotes that we read, so that you can go back and look at your code. And you don't have to start all over again, because when you're making lots of changes in your code, it's very hard to figure out where things were working and where things weren't. So Git is a tool to help you figure that out. All right, so now we're going to watch another movie because things get complicated really fast when people start working together on projects. So I have another little movie. So I was working on my story about my dog, and I decided I want my friends Arden and Ashton to help me with it. So we decide that at the beginning of each day, each school day, we're going to exchange our versions of the story. So I'll give copies to Arden and Ashton, or Arden will give copies to me and Ashton. So let's see how that works. So I wrote the story, and they're going to help me. So I show up on the first day, and I have my copy of the story, and I call it A. And then I give a copy to Arden. I'm going to drink of water here. And I'll give a copy to Ashton. So we've all got the same copy. Pretty good so far. Okay, Arden goes home and works on some changes and decides to call it A.2. And comes in the next day, gives Ashton a copy of A.2 and gives me a copy of it. So looks pretty good so far. We all have version A.2. Perfect. Yes. Okay. Now, Ashton decides to work on it. Goes home and decides tonight a new version. It's really different. Decides to call it A.new. Okay. But Arden is gone that day. Arden is out sick, so only I get the copy. But that is no big deal because we can give it to Arden the next day. We'll just hold on to it. Not a problem. We got it. It's fine. Okay, then what happens? Arden is sick, but not too sick to work on the story at home. So Arden comes up with A.3, but we haven't, Ashton and I have not seen it yet. Then I decide I don't like A.new, but I like A.2. So I'm going to work on that one and the whole new version called B because it's so new and different. The next day, I give a copy to Ashton so that Ashton has my B version. And Arden is back in, isn't sick anymore. And right away, I give it to Arden. So we've all got B, but Arden's got that copy, A.3, gives it to me. So I got a bunch of copies now. And then, of course, gives it to Ashton. But it turns out Ashton lost the copy of A.new from the other day, so Arden never gets it. So this is a big mess. So it's bad. So this is the problem. This is the problem that caused GitHub to be developed. With a lot of people working on code at the same time, you have to figure out a way to manage all the different versions and figure out who's doing what, what's the most recent version. So I'm just using the example of a story here, but code works the same way. So I'm going to start introducing some terms here because that's what computer tutorials do. You have terms. So let's look at our first term. So, all right, we're going to go back to my slideshow. Okay, there. Oh, there she is again. Okay, so version control. That is the problem that we were trying to address. That was the problem in the first movie where it was just me, and it was the same problem with the team. We were trying to manage our drafts or versions of our code or the story in my example. So what do we need? We need a system. We need a version control system. We also need an acronym because I personally love acronyms. So we have VCS. Version control system. It's a way of managing all of these versions of code, people's additions, people's subtractions. It becomes a mess really quickly. So I feel like we're up to our knees now in the GitHub pool. So don't worry, you're doing fine. I hope everybody is with me so far. So Valerie, do you think now is the time to see if anybody has any questions? Or
We totally could, yeah. If anybody has questions, you can throw them in the chat. Or if you want to unmute and ask Anne, go right ahead. Either way.
All right. I don't think we have any questions.
We'll keep going.
Okay. All right. Another term. Now this next term is the most commonly used term in Git or GitHub. Very important, but it's also very simple. It is the commit. And it is saving your code, but it's like a super save. It includes the time and who made the save and any notes about it. Because if you're trying to go back and fix things, you want to know the history of it. So that is what a commit is. So, and now I'm going to take you to just the good old whiteboard. I'm going to introduce you to some other terms, and I'm going to draw some pictures to help you understand them, because there's a lot of pictures that are drawn when people are explaining how their code is being developed and just the process that they go through. So first thing we're going to do is we're just going to draw a big dot, because this represents a commit. And then a line represents the development of your code or your story. You move from the left to the right, you're moving along that line. So I'm going to, down here, I'm just going to put another dot, and I'm going to put a note here so that we can remember what this is. The dot equals a commit. So I'm going to erase this line here so we can just go back to this original commit here. So we're going to start writing some code. This commit represents your beginning code. You've got your first part of it, and it's working, and you're going to commit to it. So that's it. Now you're going to start writing your code, and you add some more stuff, and it starts working. And the example I'm going to use for this code that you're writing is, let's pretend that you're writing an animation program, maybe using Scratch or something like that, and you want a cat you want to have a cat in the rain. So let's say right here you've got the cat and you got the rain, some rain working, but you want more rain. Here you've got some more rain. It's all working good. And here you've added a few more features onto the cat. Looks good, but then you realize, it's not working so well anymore. So, but before I explain that concept, I realize I need to show you what the term is to describe this progress of your development. So this line right here, there's a term for this, and it's very important. It's called the main branch. So this is the line that your story or your code follows as you move along. It's all working code. So you never want to save code that's not working. So that's called the main branch. Now, back to what I was saying earlier, that right here, let's say, I'm sorry, let me go back to my drawing tool. Let's say you got here and you realize something wasn't working. Oops, sorry, I'm on the wrong tool. Okay, something's not working, and you want to go back to maybe right here where it was working. And instead of trying to rewrite things, go back to where you were, we're going to go back on our time machine to here. It's going to make it a lot easier than trying to figure out what went wrong. It's easier to just go back. So there's a term for that, and it's called revert. So we are going to do a revert and go back to here. So now what I'm going to do, because we're going to go back, is I'm just going to erase this stuff, because that's kind of what happens when you do a revert. And I'm just going to get rid of that too. Oops, I didn't mean to get rid of that. There we go, commits back. Okay, so now we are going to go back to working on our code. So working on it, we got some better changes, they're good. We're adding more rain to this jump to this cat. All right, we made some progress, it's looking good. But now I've decided that this cat that I have in the rain, I want the cat to jump up and down. And I don't want to mess with my code that I've got here because it's working. So I'm going to go back to this point, and I'm going to write some code off of that. I'm going to take all that code from here, and I'm going to make just a few changes to it and make a commit here once I make some progress on that cat jumping. Okay. So what we call that is a branch. So it's different from the main branch. It's like a side branch. It's like a little side gig. So we got our branch and we keep working on our jumping cat. Okay. So let's say we make some progress. We've got the cat jumping. It looks really good. We like the jumping cat and we've got the rain. Everything's working good. Now we want to merge everything together because we want to add the jumping to the main part. So as you may have guessed, we are now going to do a merge. So it's just like if you're in your car or you're on a bicycle and you have to join together with another group of cars or bicycles, you're going to do a merge. So those are the basic terms that you're going to be using as you start working with GitHub and Git. So I'm going to just clear all this now because we're gonna do something new now. Now is the part we're gonna go and actually look at GitHub. Now we're gonna look at some screens. So the first thing you need to do is just get yourself a GitHub account. So it's very easy. I'm sure you've gotten accounts on stuff before. So we just go to github.com and you click on sign up. And then you show you a cute little animation. And then you just enter your email and you follow the steps from there. They'll send you a welcome email, etc. I'm sure you've done this kind of thing before. So once you get logged in to GitHub, I'll show you what it looks like. This is your dashboard. So first thing you see right here in the middle, learn GitHub and Git without code. That's kind of what we've been doing so far. I've been telling you stories. We've been looking at movies. You can even write a book on GitHub. People have done it, but most of the time it's used for coding. So I encourage you, once you're done watching this tutorial, if you want to keep on learning about it, this is a great little thing to start with. I did it and it's super simple and easy. So the other thing you can see down here is explore GitHub. So this will bring up an area in the center where they're showing you things they think you might be interested in, like things that I've looked at before. They think, oh, Anne might be interested in these other repositories, which is our next word. So a repository, and you see over here, it says a star repository. You'll see that term all over the place. It's very simple. It is just a folder or a directory that holds all of your project files. And we'll revisit that again later, but I just want to introduce that to you because you're going to see that term around here on the page. So the next term, the next thing we want to look at is as we're moving around here on GitHub is this area where you can star things. So you can see I've starred a couple of topics that I'm interested in, Bash and Python programming languages, and I starred a couple of other people's repositories, so other people's project folders that I'm interested in. So I'm interested in animations about math. So I've started this one, Math Generation, and Manum is an animation engine. And so this is where you can just kind of like bookmark things that you're interested in and then go back to them later. So, so those are just kind of the main areas that you'll see. And now the next thing we want to look at is your profile. I can see I put up just a little illustration of me with my glasses and my short hair. And this is an area where you'll see your profile. So let's go here. You can put up your profile picture and people can go here to see who you are and what you're working on and just learn a little bit about you. It's like an introduction and everybody has one on GitHub. So here you can just see I've got my username and what I'm interested in and, et cetera. So in this little pencil over here, I can edit it. So I'm going to go and make a change here just so you can see how it works. So I'll say I'm looking to collaborate on a Scratch animation and I'm using Python coding. I'll say that I'll add to here, I'm also interested in JavaScript coding and JavaScript. So I've made one change, and now I'm going to scroll down here, and there's that term again, commit. So I'm going to make these changes, and I can change this line here to make a note about it. So I'm going to say added JavaScript, and then I'm going to hit commit changes. So now you can see it says that I'm now interested in JavaScript. So now let's go back and look at all of my repositories. So there's a tab up here at the top, says repositories. I have 8 of them. So the first one is always just your GitHub profile, and we already looked at that. So here's some other, I was working on the story earlier, and this one is just one that I forked over from someone else. So I can look at it. So forking is just copying from one repository to another. So if I looked at somebody else's repository, I can copy it over. And that's what I did with this one. So you see, I've already forked it. That's the button for it. And now we can look at this person's code. So there's lots of JavaScript code in here. There's a markdown file, .md stands for markdown. So let's take a look at one of these. Let's look at this JSON file. So here's some JSON coding. So you probably don't know JSON. I'm not super familiar with it either, but that's what it looks like. And at the top here, you can see this is a very active project. There are 11,390 commits. So lots of people have been working on it. Now, let's go back to my little group of repositories. And we're going to just build a new one so that you can see some examples of how it works and what does it look like when you look at these files and make changes. So let's create a new one. Click the new button, and we're going to give it a new name. So I'm just going to call it, Ann Clover Story. Okay, I'm going to make it public so that anybody can see it. And I'm going to add a README file, because everybody adds README files so that you can show people what your project is about. Then they can decide if they're interested and if they want to help with it. And don't worry about git ignore and license if you just want to limit how people can use your code. So we're going to create this repository. So all we've got so far is just the name that I gave to it. So let's just add one line. So I clicked on the little pencil. I'm just going to add a line. I'm going to say, this is a story about my dog, Clover. Okay. So we're going to go down here, and we're just going to leave that update readme.md. That's the default. We're just going to leave both of those, and we're going to commit the changes. So now you can see there's the change. Now, if we click on this code button up here, it takes us to a list of the files that we have so far in the repository. So you can see, like right now, all we have is this README file. So let's create just one more file so that we can see what that looks like. And this is just gonna be my page 1. And so I'll just do like the first line, maybe, of my story. Clover likes to go to the dog park. Okay. That's my first line. I like it. Oh, I want to change that. I'm going to say she likes to go every day to the dog park. Okay, I like that. I'm going to commit to that. So instead of just saying create page 1, I'm going to call it create. I'm going to call it dog park page 1. Because I want some more descriptive stuff on there. Okay, and I'm going to commit. Okay, so you can see that where I wrote dog park page 1 shows up here in the center. And then page 1 over here. That's the name of the file. So if I want to look at the file, I'm going to click on what's in the left-hand column. So here I can see it's Clover goes every day to the park. So if I want to look at the changes, you'll see it in green. It says Clover likes to go every day to the dog park. Now let's make one change to this file, and then we're going to be pretty much done with this interface because we've done a lot of really basic moving around in here. So we are going to edit it. So I'm going to click on the link on the left here, and I'm going to go to this little pencil. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to add, she likes to go to the dog park that is near the lake. And I'm going to say, she also likes to do tricks. Okay. So I'm going to change this to lake update. And also I'm going to make a note about doing tricks. Now I'm going to do my commit. All right, there we can see how it exists after I made those changes. So let's go back now and look at the list of the files again. We got 2 files. You see I've done 4 commits. And the last commit that I did, I called it lake update. Now, if I click on this link in the middle, it's going to show my last commit, that one where I added the stuff about the lake. So now you can see it's here in some colors. So this is really helpful if you're doing coding. So it's showing me that before I made a change, the line said, Clover likes to go every day to the dog park. I made a change, and now here's what it says. So the green shows the way that it exists right now. So that can be really helpful once you have lots of changes in your code and you're trying to figure out where you were before. So that is how commits help you. And this link right here with 4 commits, I can see all the commits that I made and how I named them. So there was the initial commit where I created the README file, then I updated it, and then I created this page called Dog Park Page 1, and then I made a change to it. So this is how you can use commits to go back in time and figure out where you were and figure out what went wrong. So I'm just going to go back now, and we're going to go over a couple of terms, and then we're going to see if anybody has any questions. So let's go back. We're going to go back to commit. So remember, that's just a save where you're including all that stuff about the commit. And then there was the main branch, and I was drawing on the whiteboard, and I was showing you that's the line of progress of your code or your story. And then the revert, if you want to go back to a previous commit because you made a mistake and you want to go back and start over again, what point where it was working, you can do a revert. And then a branch, that is a separate line of development. It's like a side storyline that you can work on without affecting the main branch. And then if everything goes well with your branch and you want to incorporate it into your main branch, you do a merge. So you combine your code from another branch. So that's what a merge is. And then this diagram shows you how you'll often see depictions of GitHub. The circle is pretty much a standard way of notating a commit. And I was doing it horizontally, but you can see they're doing it vertically. I've seen it both ways. So the main branch is this line right here. And you can see here's a couple of branches. They're often called features because people are adding a feature to an animation or their site or whatever. So you'll see feature over and over again. So here's a branch, for example, feature 1, and they kept doing commits on feature 1 and then merged it to the main branch. And then here, there's a branch off of a branch and another branch off of a branch. So you can see it gets really complicated quickly. But with GitHub and Git to help keep track of all these changes, you can work together with other people and keep track of everything. So in feature 3, came around and merged here. Meanwhile, there was another feature in the middle. So sometimes these diagrams really help if you're trying to keep track of a project. So the last thing, we talked about repository. That's a folder that holds all of the project files. That's a pretty simple concept. And then fork, you're copying someone else's repository to your own GitHub account. The way I kind of imagine it is if you're at a table and everybody has like a baked potato on their plate, and you just take your fork and you stick it into somebody else's baked potato and move it over onto your plate. You made a copy of it over on your GitHub account. And this is the last thing I promised you at the beginning, that you were going to understand the difference between Git and GitHub. So this is the difference. GitHub exists out in the cloud on giant servers, and all of the code from all of the coders and developers that are sharing is held there, but they're not really working directly for the most part on GitHub. All those changes I was showing you, doing commits, making files, people don't usually do that on GitHub, but you can. And I was doing it there just for the sake of demonstration to make it easy. But most people work on their own laptops. So I've got 3 laptops here showing each person who's running Git or an application that uses Git, because there's numerous choices that you have. And then they are moving things up to GitHub, and they call that a push, or they're pulling things down. So there's a couple more terms that you'll see that I didn't have in the slide deck today, but you will see those very quickly once you start moving along in your GitHub education. So that's why people get confused, because the terms are similar, but a hub is a term that means the center of a wheel and where everything comes together. And that's why they called it hub, a GitHub. And then the last thing is I just wanted to tell you about a few more tutorials that you could go to if you want to continue learning about GitHub. So I discovered somebody named Sarah Guffels on YouTube, and I think she does a great job of explaining GitHub and Git. Once you finish this tutorial and you've got a basic understanding of how it works and why it was developed, you'll be at a good point to then jump over to Sarah and have her lead you further into how to use it and more concepts. She's got her own YouTube channel, and she collaborated on a book called GitHub for Dummies. And I checked at the Hennepin County Library, and there are 5 copies. So you could get one. And if you go to a school where they have a library, you could ask the librarian to buy a copy. Also, other resources, you may have heard of these 4 places where you can learn online. Now, Free Code Camp and codeacademy.com are all free, I think, but you can get free stuff on all of these. So Udemy, I saw they've got a free GitHub course and it looks pretty good. You can also pay like $15 or something and get a course that might be a little bit better. Sometimes if you pay a little bit, you get a better course, a more in-depth course. So sometimes it's worth to just pay 10 or 15 bucks. Once you find an instructor you like on Udemy, you can find some good stuff. So that is pretty much what I have today. And if anybody has any questions, please let me know.
And we do have one question in the chat.
Oh, great.
It says, just an assumption, I feel like it may be difficult to manage the merges, like accepting or rejecting different lines of code or changes. Is it so?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I didn't cover that because it can be complicated. So GitHub has a built-in system of merging code. So it's basically a computer algorithm that figures out where to add the different sections in it so it doesn't break it when you merge it. So you don't have to figure out how to do the merge, you just do it and it figures it out. So is that kind of what is that what the question was? Or is there?
I think so. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. So you don't have to know how to do that.
No, you just have to do the merge button. Now, the other part of the question that she had, or whoever had, was about I think it was probably about like when to merge and looking at the situation from the teamwork point of view. And you're thinking, oh, how do they manage all that when who's head of the team? Who's going to decide if this change gets merged or not? Well, there's a whole system for that in GitHub also. And I didn't address that because I was just trying to do a really basic introduction. But there's usually one or two people who are leading a project, and they will be the ones who are reviewing the code. So you have people that, let's say you have a team of 3 and it's a job and it's just you 3, it's nobody else. And there's one person who's the lead. You'll submit your code updates to that person and they will decide, is this code working? Is this good code? Maybe you'll go back and forth about it. They make final decision on what's going to get merged and they do it. So, but if it's open source and anybody can contribute, like you forked somebody's repository and you've got some great changes to this animation program and you want to suggest them, then you can do what's called a pull request. And you'll submit it to whoever is running that repository, and they will look at your code and they will decide if they want to merge it to their project. So I hope that answers all of the aspects of the merging question, because it is complicated. You've got this management tool, but how do you really use it? But there's all these other parts of the tool that are there for you to use. And once you start going in and in learning more and more about it, you discover how to use those tools.
Yep, it sounds like that was exactly what they were looking for. And
Okay.
they did say on MS Word, you decide which parts of documents as an owner, and it becomes very complicated if you have lots of contributors. But
Right.
now understand how it's easier on GitHub. So
Yeah.
it's a good tool, right?
Yeah.
Anybody else have questions for Anne or any comments on GitHub or anything you want to talk about? If not, that's okay too. We will share this recording for everybody that registered, and then we'll also send links to all of Anne's resources here for like Dr. Guthel's YouTube and some of those classes. If there's no other questions and people don't have anything else you want to chat about, we can let you go early. And I just want to thank everybody for being here, and thank you, Anne, for sharing your wonderful dip in the pool with us. You're making me want to go swimming. So
thank you. It was fun. Thanks for asking me. I had a good time, and thanks to everybody who showed up or who watches this. And if you have more feedback later about how we can improve things, I'd love to know.
awesome. Thank you so much.